Hello everyone, it's Mike Levin, May 17th, 2017, at around 8 a.m., heading into work. And after a good night's sleep, I've been thinking over the discovery work I did yesterday regarding refactoring a number of my automated web data collection tasks around Selenium, and at the end of a fairly intense search of all the options available, I am going with Headless Chrome. As of distribution 59, Chrome is able to run in a headless mode, which is actually quite amazing. Prior to that, everyone had to choose between a spattering of different possibilities, including Phantom.js was a very popular one. Using Firefox headlessly was another option. And these types of things are used as an alternative to more traditional ways of making HTTP requests over the web. Namely, the request object from Kenneth Wright's The Prolific and Everywhere package that many people think ought to be part of core, but it illuminates an important aspect of Python in that Guido van Rossum and the maintainers of Python feel that the underlying core libraries should not have the responsibility for everything, including building a perfect API, application program interface, around all the capabilities that they give you. So all the variations of something called URL lib inside of the Python core library could do much of this work, but many people end up installing the requests object to alleviate HTTP and general web task tedium. And the next phase after that is when you're trying to do stuff that you actually need a bona fide web browser with the ability to execute JavaScript, render CSS, build the actual page using the resource graphics for various things, from fetching data that is not accessible unless the JavaScript renders, to creating screen snapshots, and a variety of other things that become difficult when you don't have a web browser in the picture. Now, the common wisdom is that you keep moving parts to a minimum, and having a graphical user interface and a whole web browser pop up and some automation remote control task happen in the web browser is about as moving parts as it gets. You actually, in that case, can't use the cheapest and smallest and most efficient of the types of servers out there, which are the headless servers that, don't have all that overhead, increased software surface area tasks running of a graphical user interface at desktop. So, most of the times when you spin up Amazon servers, for example, there's no graphical user interface, and the stuff you write should work just fine without it. But when you require a web browser in the picture, that's not always the case. You have to at least have the web browser installed. Now, whether it can pop up and show on the screen and whether it should or not is a question of whether you're running it headlessly or not. And Phantom.js was probably one of the more popular packages out there, generally used with JavaScript and Node.js, in order to run a web browser. And it worked off of, all the web browsers, part of this story is that all the web browsers have a rendering engines that are generally in the free and open source, or at least the open source world. Gecko is the one behind Firefox and Mozilla, and I think that's what Phantom.js uses. There's also, it uses WebKit, which is the one from Apple. And then the third one, I think it's called Blink from Google. So it's not like you have to use the whole web browser when doing this. You can just use the rendering engines and render the web page in the computer's memory without actually displaying it on the screen. and that's called running headlessly. And Chrome has just gotten to the point where it can run headlessly in the new release versions, in the developer channels. So I pulled that down and tried it, but there is no doubt that now that Google announced it, they're going to iron out all the issues that keeps it from being usable and elegant. Multi-platform issues, it has to work on Macs, PCs, and Linux just as readily and well. Integration with good APIs for the remote control language like Selenium, so better integration with Selenium. And then finally, the actual ability to run headlessly, which is what was announced and promised, but because of the not quite finished Selenium integration, it is not entirely practical. So what I'm doing now in preparation for switching how I do web scraping is I'm switching over to Chrome. I'm not going the Firefox or Phantom.js route, but I am switching to Chrome, and I simply will not run it headlessly. I'll run Chrome, allowing the whole Chrome interface to pop up, something I would have thought not viable in the past, because almost all my development work has been on those sort of headless servers. So that was something I simply could not do in the past on the types of servers I was using. But now that I'm on Jupyter Notebook and I'm taking advantage of the power of the actual desktop computer I'm sitting at, whatever laptop I'm on, be it Mac or PC, by definition I have a graphical user interface, a graphical desktop. So for the time being, I will do remote control of the Chrome browser, allowing it to run with its display. And as the headless behavior of Chrome matures, I will adjust my work and get the best of both worlds. So that's where I'm at right now, and that's the work I'm engaged in. And thanks for joining me. Hope to talk to you soon, and don't forget to subscribe.